And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. And what an interesting show we've got coming up for us very, very shortly. Because Rassie Erasmus has officially named his 23 to face Ireland this weekend. And a couple of big calls. Very much sticking to the core of the team that has carried us so long. A lot of the team that beat France. A couple of injuries. No Kurt Lawrence, who has actually returned to South Africa with that concussion. And as a result, the first time you're going to see Canan Moodie out on the wing this tour. Jesse Creel and Damien Elena back in the centres. Kobus Reinach and Sasha Fami-Gomez backed in the halfback pairing. Marnie Buck, Grant Williams continuing to add that impact off the bench. It is still that sort of 5.5, sort of 2.5 split with Andre Esterhuizen covering potentially flank and forward on the bench as well. And despite playing his 50th cap for Arceus Neyman, he has still been left on the bench, with the Boks obviously opting to go with the fact that he's a much bigger impact player for them and starting, despite the fact that it is his 50th test. They have decided to keep him on the bench, which just shows you how seriously they're taking this match, because I think that in any other circumstances, he would start, because they always try to get players to start on their 50th cap. So let's get into it, shall we? This is the team that Rassie has announced. In the front row, we have got Bone Fenter, Malcolm Marx, and Thomas du Toit. Pretty expected. It has been the front row that we have seen throughout the sort of alternation series. Obviously, last week, Malcolm Marx got a bit of a game off. But Bone Fenter has been starting most of the time. Thomas du Toit has been our starting number 3 for most of the year, alongside Malcolm Marx, who obviously also got his World Player of the Year nomination this week. Then we've got Eben Etzebeth next to Ruan Okia. Eben Etzebeth, by the way, will bring up his 140th cap this weekend. Whilst Ruan Okia, by the way, has actually just got himself up to 17 caps, nice and quietly. So approaching that big 20 cap margin, which is kind of where the Bok coaches always want players to be and going into a World Cup. So you can actually start looking at the squad and seeing how it starts to take shape. We then look at the back row that we kind of expected. Sia Khaleesi obviously captaining as in the 102nd appearance. You then got Pierre Steph du Toit and Jasper Wiese in that number 8 jersey. The 19 combination of Kobus Reinach and Sasha Feinberg-Gomez will continue, as, I mean, that's probably the form halfback pairing in World Rugby right now. And if it's not broken, don't fix it. Cheslin Colby has switched the number 14 jersey for the number 11. Very interesting not to have gone with Ethan Hooker. There must have been a temptation for that. They have resisted that temptation, however, and put Canan Moodie in the number 14 jersey. It indicates that we are going to really look at the aerial battle. And I think that that's a very deliberate matchup, Canan Moodie versus James Lowe. And a big game, Cheslin Colby up against potentially Matt Hansen or Tommy O'Brien or the likes. The centers are Damien Delende and Jesse Creel. It is experience between the two of them. I mean, 87 caps for Jesse Creel on Saturday, 96 caps for Damien Delende on Saturday. So, I mean, those two almost combining with 200 caps. And they know each other inside and out. And then obviously, probably our most informed player, I think, right now, Damien Willemse, on the back of 2 phenomenal games. Was great against France, was phenomenal against Italy. He starts in the number 15 jersey. On the bench, no Andre Pollard. Big call. They have continued to back Grant Williams and Marnie Buck. And why not? They are playing so well off the bench. They are taking our team to a different level when they come on, and they are being rewarded. So Johan Grobbelaar, Gerard Stellenkamp, and Wilco Low, a more orthodox sort of front row placement. We then got Arceus Neyman, Kwagga Smith, and Andre Esterhuizen, who will continue, will likely come on the flank. And we actually haven't really seen him come on at centre recently. I've seen the red cards actually been playing both. So we've got the red card contingency. However, the red card situation is Loet Jager and Franco Mostert were both not considered for selection. Franco Mostert has been cleared, but they basically sort of planned for him not to be available because obviously, if you train Monday, Tuesday, and then the red card is upheld, we would have only really had a Wednesday and a short captain's run to sort of got him in going. So they basically made the decision early not to consider him for the game and go with Ruan Okia as the starter. If we look at what he's had to say about the team, Rassie said, the majority of this team were rested last week to ensure that they recover from the physically taxing match against France. And it was always our plan to name an experienced outfit against Ireland. Most of these players have faced Ireland in Dublin, as well as in the 2023 Rugby World Cup and the incoming series. So they understand the magnitude of this challenge and what to expect from the hosts. So we believe that this is the right players for this match. Then speaking about Rassie Erasmus, he said, "We are thrilled for Rassie and we'll do everything we can to make this a special occasion for him. He's a great player and team man, and had it not been for injuries along the way, he would have probably earned 50 caps a while ago. He deserves this achievement and it speaks volumes about the quality of player he is." He then said that Ireland is one among the top-ranked teams in the last few years, and they are a force to be reckoned with at home. They have a good balance of experience and exciting young players in their squad, and they pose threats up front and with their talented backs, so it's going to require a massive effort to beat them. This group of players have never won a match at Ireland before, so we know how tough it's going to be to win here, and that will certainly motivate us. It'll take a colossal effort, but we are excited about the challenge, and we know that we have to be razor sharp in all departments to get the desired result. The man is not wrong. We have not won at home or away from home, in Ireland's home, I think it's since 2012, for about 13 years since the last time we had the Box won in Ireland. So it's a big task for us. We've got a very good record against Ireland, but not a very good recent record. Although even then, our win percentage is only 63%, and that's because recently we've just not won a lot of games against them. If we look at some of the stats, for example, we have got 876 caps in the starting lineup, 361 in the back line, 515 amongst the forwards, and 238 caps in the backline. The average amount of caps per player in the backline is 52, in the forwards is 64, and the average players on the bench is 30. So experience is very much the name of the game, and why not? It makes sense. You know, it is such a big game, and we've got to make sure that we get a result. This has been a bit of an Everest for Rassie Erasmus. He's not been able to beat Ireland at home. It's the only country he's not won in, that he's sort of gone to and played a team against. You know, he's beaten everybody everywhere. He's beaten England, Scotland, Wales, France, New Zealand, Australia, Argentina, everybody. He's beaten everybody in the country when they've played, except for Ireland. This is the only team he has not beaten away. This is a team picked to do just that, and it's a nice balance of form and experience. You know, I mean, Kane Moody, for example, and Jesse Creel at outside centre, that was always going to be a bit of a toss-up. The fact that there's no Kirtley Aronson meant that maybe they would have attempted to go with Ethan Hooker, for example. But again, they've gone with the experience. So, I mean, not that Kane Moody is a 50-cap Bok, but he's got 20 caps under his name, you know, and played really well last week, playing with a lot of confidence. Back on the wing, we sometimes struggled a little bit, I think. He obviously didn't have the best game against Australia out on the wing, but he's playing with a lot of confidence, and that's the main thing. And also, you know, he's sticking with the likes of Bowen Fenter, who's been pulled early, but they're sending him back out. And I like that about this coaching staff. They're not going to bin anybody after maybe a tricky performance or two. They really do back these players. Same with Grant Williams and Moyne Ebok. It would have been very easy to have said, "Ooh, we need experience. It's going to be a tight game. We need to kick our threes. Let's put Andre Parr as a sort of in case of emergency break last." And they're saying no. Grant Williams, Moyne Ebok score us points in the last 20 minutes. They open up teams. We're going to back those two to keep doing that. So I think that this team is pretty bang on, to be honest. It's a bit different to what I predicted, because I got the wings wrong and the number 5 wrong. I thought they might have got Arceus name and starting, but they've resisted that temptation and they put him on the bench. What do you think of the team? Let me know down in the comments below, and let me know what you think the score prediction might be based on this team. Because it's a team where I don't think we could have asked for much more, in fairness. I think that we've named as more or less as strong as a team as we can. I don't think this team, with current, if you look at the squad and people available, gets much stronger. Even in terms of players who are injured, I don't think it gets massively stronger. You know, maybe down the line, obviously depending on the way he comes back, maybe a France Malherbe, obviously Oxenchair in the number 1 jersey, and possibly, if he's on 4, maybe a Bongi in the number 16 jersey. But if we're playing a World Cup final tomorrow against Ireland, I don't think this team will be that different. So it's a very, very strong team. It's got everything it needs. I said it's got the experience, it's got the pedigree, it's got inside for information, for example, on Arceus name, and obviously we'll know a lot about this this Irish side. So he'll be a very important player for us in terms of the preparation. So does Jean Clay, having obviously played for Ireland. But I think that we've gotten it right. And I'm going to put a poll out and asking, do you like the side? What do you think of the side, basically? Do you like the 23? Simple yes or no. Please also review. Before we sort of really get into some of the comments, I want you guys to go and I would really like to call on a little bit of support. Let's do a bit of a subscribe train. Go and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to that 100,000, hoping to try and get it on match day during this game, which would be very fun. And please do smash like on the video. And also, let me know how you did on mypicks.app. So obviously a lot of people have been doing the predictions on mypicks.app, trying to guess the team. We'll look at how everybody did a bit later. I think I got 3 wrong now. Well, I think I would have gotten 2 wrong, actually, when I'm looking at it now. So I think 2 wrong, but I wouldn't have gotten Jason Colby in the right position because I had him in the number 14 jersey. But let me know how you did on your MyPicks. And if you haven't, please do go and register. We went over 500 users today, which is a nice big milestone for us. So over 1,500 people watching. Go and sign up for MyPicks right now and get your score prediction locked in for the weekend. Make sure you are registered so you can do your player ratings rather at the end of the game. You can do that and you can share your ratings and the likes of that. Let's get into some of the comments, by the way. And there are 92% so far of over 200 votes saying that they do like the 23. So let's go pull out some of the comments that will. Obviously not going to be able to see everything. If you'd like to make sure your comment gets read out, please do consider sending a super chat. We are already starting our Project 2027. And it's going to be an expensive trip over to Australia. So that's what we kind of basically already starting to look at, is making sure we get over there and bring you guys all the content that we can. Because last time, for example, in France, we were the only ones doing press conferences and trainings and the likes of that when we were in France. So we really want to make sure we can get over that and make sure you guys are on the ground with us. Looking at some of the comments over here, what has everybody got to say? And Jacques Kirsten said, can't write Jesse Creel's defensive organization out, guys. Moody is world-class on attack, but defensively, not one-on-one, but organizing the defense is not there yet. And I think it's a pretty fair comment, in fairness. Who else has got Timon Oosthuizen said, I thought the red against Monster was fair and should have been kept. Well, you're wrong. So, unlux. What else has everybody got to say about the team? Robert says, I got 2 wrong. Moody playing in the place of Hooker on the left wing and Esterhuizen instead of Janssen on the bench. Otherwise, nailed it. Black Dylan saying, I'm not happy with Arkia playing off the bench in his 50th. Is Etzebeth Rassie's love child? Well, even then, I mean, Arkia plays more as a 5 than a 4 most of the time. I don't think he's ever really started at 4, especially not for the box. I think that's the right decision, to be fair. I think he is the big impact player and part of the new look bomb squad. So I think that it was, I think it was always going to happen. East Coast says, I wish it was all mind games with Bird and Rassie was trying to create the impression he's a weakling and then he comes on and obliterates the Irish front low. In fairness, I think he was doing all right against France. I think that they saw something that we obviously didn't. And it's not just me, I think. So quite a few pundits, I think even Scott Berger was saying, he was quite surprised that Bowen Fenter had been pulled off because they thought he was scrumming quite well. So yeah, I think it's a big opportunity for him, to be honest, a big opportunity to stake a claim. And the Wildman reckons Pollard isn't a big call. He's been third choice for some time. Jacques saying, loving the decision of Moody on the wing. He has a strong shoulder in the tackle and should hopefully dig that deep into Rob Lowe's torso. I think you mean James Lowe, but yes. Come on, our members, Tommy's saying, look, let's show off Tony Ball against Wales. Let's be serious for these oaks. K3A says, looks like I'm 15 out of 15 picks. I didn't think Kurt Janssen would be available because he went for HIA. Some team. Yeah, big shout out to our members who have all joined the members club. It is the pinned comment. We are trying to get up to 300 members by the end of the year. So big shout out to everybody who has been joining the members club and showing the support to the site. And yeah, I mean, it's because of our members and all the support that we get to do the kind of coverage that we do and have somebody, for example, on the ground. So we will have the full Rassie Erasmus press conference up a bit later because we do have somebody over there covering for us. Thanks to all of your guys' support. Gavin says it's going to be a huge game. Arkia 50 tests and at home for Ireland is going to be a cracker. Yeah, how cool is that? It's just a bit of a side note for Arkia Sneeman to play his 50th test against Ireland in Ireland where he plays his domestic rugby, and he's got a very big affliction to Ireland. Loves Ireland. Big shout out to Alma for the super chat. Thank you so much. Really, really do appreciate that. And I need to get my there we go. So as you can see there, Alma van Emmons going with the super chat there. So if you'd like to see the super chats feature in Rassie's culture, or else become a member where you get a cool little animation on the screen where a little Bok jersey comes up with your name on it, please do consider becoming a member. Otherwise, you can send a super chat and feature in Rassie's coaching box. Ryan says, regarding all the red cards and such, where is Jaco Paper, who was helping us out all with the referee assistance? Just a question I had. So Jaco Paper has actually been appearing with the players in the appeals, in the disciplinary hearings. So he was part of the Louis Diaga case, as was Felix Jones. And they argued that it wasn't a red card. However, that time the disciplinary hearing committee saying otherwise. But we did manage to get an opportunity this week to put it right, and we did win that. Niels Bezedno's gone with an early SA 29-17 iron. I hope you've locked that in on my picks. Go and make sure you predict that score. And Shark says, Nchunu missing out. He has been consistently good, deserves a chance. We'll see him next week because Bowen Fenter will go back to Edinburgh. So I think next week we'll probably see Intuka Unu start. Gerstine come probably off the bench. We'll also not see Archie Snyman. So we'll probably see Franco Mossad next week. We also won't see Thomas Latoy. So you might see Zach Porton get another opportunity. Maybe Asanati and Klabakanya, who hasn't played yet on this tour. Man said, I wanted Archie to start above Eben. It's his 50th, but granted, I think Archie probably asked Rassie to bench him. He loves the bomb squad. Yeah, I think you probably find that he said he doesn't care. I mean, I think that was a big thing that they've been talking about. He's such a big team man as Archie Snyman. And, you know, they probably would have spoken to him and said, listen, how do you feel about not starting your 50th test? And he probably said, Coach, you put me when I use you. I think he does relish the impact player that he has. And, you know, as I said, they probably asked him and he probably said, you put me where I need me. I love being part of the bomb squad. And they then said, all right, cool. Well, then you can stay there, which I think is the right decision. Big shout out to a big welcome to Gavin, who's just joined the members club. You can see they get that little animation with his Bok jersey. So if you'd like to have that, then please do consider becoming a member. We don't, by the way, have a Iron Squad just yet. We will have that up later. We will do a video when that gets released. I think it actually gets released nowish on the social. So we'll do one after the video. We'll have a look at do a deep dive into that. We will have their press conference on the channel later as well. So that should be quite a cool press conference. See what Andy Farrell has to say about the thing. So that gets named in an hour's time at 4 o'clock. And they'll be playing in white this weekend, by the way, in case anybody wants to know. We're obviously playing in our green and gold, and they'll be playing in their white kit. France says, I hope Bowen Fenter will have a better game in the game against France. Well, I think scrum-wise, I'm happy to have the same game against France, actually, because he actually was coping at the scrums. I think it was somewhere else where they saw that he was struggling a little bit. Sage reckons box by 8. Jump Peak has said 36-22 Bokker. Malcolm to score first. I like the predictions, people. I like the predictions. I just hope that you are getting them locked in on my picks and joining all our different leagues and seeing how you go. Man says, sorry, I hope Arca comes on at 40 minutes, not 50. Excuse me. Carl says, next year is going to be interesting regarding our 10s. It'll be interesting to see how Pollard does with the Bulls and Murray does in Japan. What do you think they'll do with the 10s? I think at the moment we're pretty sorted with the way we're using our 10s, to be honest. I think the reality is the way that Grant Williams and Murray Liebach are playing off the bench it's like the bomb squad, you know. We always spoke about back in the day that the impact the bomb squad had and the forwards and stuff. But I think at the moment we're seeing a different type of impact. First of all, we are seeing a bit of a bomb squad in terms of the forwards getting that forward dominance. But then we're seeing two players come on that ignite the back line and are the masters of finding space. Grant Williams sees a half gap against a tight defense and bang, he's straight through. Murray Liebach's our best player at identifying space, seeing space, using space, and putting players into space. So, you know, I think we're just in such a good position. And I don't think, you know, I think it was Nick Matter was saying at the end of the day, Pollard needs to try and develop his game and kind of change his game a bit, because at the moment, the way we are trying to develop our game and going to go play in Australia, where it's going to be fast pitches, good conditions, for example, in the World Cup, he's going to have to add more to his game to be able to suit this Bok DNA. And I think that he's right. I mean, and that's not to say that he has to reinvent himself or that he's not good enough. But for years, we played a brand of rugby that suits him down to a T. Now, with the way the game's changing, and more to the point, the way that we are changing, he does need to kind of reinvent himself to a certain degree and maybe add a few strings to his bow and understand a little bit what his new role is. And, no one's ever going to say that, he's not a world-class flower. He's got 2 World Cups, got a British and Irish Lions series. He's been phenomenal for a long time. But at the moment, we've got Sasha and we've got Marnie, who are just playing some of the best rugby in the world. I think Sasha is probably one of the form 10s in the World Rugby alongside the likes of a George Ford that's playing at the absolute top level. And I think that we've also looking at Marnie Liebach, who's probably the best, Finn Russell obviously as well, in terms I think Finn Russell is the best flower from the world, but I think that him and Finn Russell are probably the best 2 distributors and players who attack a game line and find space in World Rugby at the moment. So it's becoming very difficult for Andre Pollard to get into the side. And that's not necessarily I don't think it's necessarily a criticism against Pollard versus just the way that Marnie's playing is just so good at the moment. WLK says Sasha and Marnie is our top 2 10s. I love Pollard, but he is not the same level. What can you do if the 2 best flyers in the world is your teammates? Leon reckons the killer squad cannot wait. Martin saying, I don't think Pollard has to change. There's a lot of games that need his style. Butler says, I say 39-18 to the box. Moody with 2 tries. Sasha's going to show why he is who he thinks he is. Like the confidence. Very much like the confidence. Earl says, people are saying box more than 7. Check the history. We are not going to put more than 7 on them, but I rate a win. I could not care if we win by half a point. As long as when that final whistle comes on Saturday evening, we have more points. As long as that scoreline is favorable to us, I'm a happy box porter. Because again, we've struggled to beat Ireland in Ireland for many years, and this is definitely our best opportunity to get that victory. I think that it's there for us to take. I think we are playing incredible rugby at the moment. I think Ireland are playing well over the last weekend, but I don't think they're at their top. I think, we talk about 10s. I think Prendergast versus Ash is going to be an interesting battle. I think that, assuming Prendergast is the one that they start, I think they will start him. He's a very talented player, Sam Prendergast, but I think he's a player you kind of can target. I think you can try and put him on the back foot. And he's very new to Test match rugby. And, I think we're going to see this Prendergast Sasha battle for many years to come. And throw in the likes of a Finn Smith into that mix, for example. Carter Gordon coming back from Australia could potentially be in that conversation. People are talking about Ruben Love for the All Blacks. And obviously Romain Intermac, still a very young player. So there's a lot of good young 10s coming through that I think are going to light up the World Rugby for the next few years. There is going to be a bit of a changing of the guard in our sort of the big teams number 10s. Because you're seeing Andre Pollard no longer starting for the box. You no longer see Johnny Sexton. George Ford's coming to the end of his career. Even Owen Farrell obviously not playing. Although he played mostly at inside centre. Finn Russell's not a young player, but he's not getting old, for example. But they will have to start eventually looking at the next sort of Finn Russell. So there's quite obviously the All Blacks as well. Bowden Barrett struggling at the moment. So it's going to be an interesting time of new flower halves in the future. Petro says, good team pick, Rassie. It's just execution. Now, Strong's essay behind the world champs. Anthony says, hopefully ref Matthew Carley will allow the game to flow compared to previous game and the ref picks up Ireland discretion. Box by 10. Francois says, I don't think Pollard needs to change. He just needs opportunity to show he evolved. The match he has played has not allowed him to show how he would attack. I'm kind of semi with you, semi not. He has, for example, against Eden Park, could have probably showed a bit more, to be honest. So I think that he has had chances. I just don't think he's just not the same kind of player. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Somebody mentioned that there's still lots of use for his skill set, and there is. But if he wants to get back to playing week in, week out, coming off the bench, he's going to have to add a lot more. He's going to have to show that he can do the job that we're seeing Sasha and Marnie do right now. Crew says, we need the Sasha show against Ireland. He can break any defense. Ireland has kept us from scoring tries in the past. Peter says, scrums between Thomas Dutoy and Cheat Andrew Porter will be interesting. The English officials could, of course. And Man says, when I think of Prendergast in defense, I always think of Pollock running away from him in the Champions Cup semi. Yeah, no, listen. Not the greatest defensive moment that from Sam Prendergast. And it'll be interesting to sort of see how they go about him this weekend. Jacques says, not enough mention of Willemse on a weekend that the aerial battle will be big. James Lowe it does tend to kick long, put those kicks into Willem's hand, and they're in Kagwas. I want to see Willems cook this week. I was saying in the show this morning, I think 2 players, if they had played a full season, might have even been ahead of the likes of Peter Steph, Victoria, Malcolm Marks, and Oxen Chair in the Player of the Year rankings, is Damian Willems and Jasper Wiese. I think those 2 players, since they've come back into the mix, have been sublime. And long may that continue, because we need those players playing at the best level. 2 such important players. Number 8, number 15. I think Damian Willems is the best 15 in the world alongside Thomas Ramos right now. And I think that this weekend he could hopefully be in for a big game. I think I'm excited. I'm excited to see what he brings, because he's a big game player, is Damian Willems. He often rises to the occasion. Kid Cynical reckons Jasper to storm into Prendergast channel, force actually defend inwards. Robert says, agreed. I'll take the win no matter how many points. I have faith in Rassie and the green and gold. Tommy says they're going to target Prendergast. Their channel deserves Esterhazen. And Francis, what's your opinion? Do you think Jacques Newberg give them insights? Well, I think that there would have been never to be insights for players playing for Leinster. First of all, obviously, as the defence coach, he would have implemented principles from the Springbok defence. That's naturally going to happen, much like Felix Jones would have implemented principles within England. Tommy O'Brien was speaking earlier in his press conference earlier this week about the fact that Jacques Newberg has helped them understand the Springbok defence a bit better. And that's inevitable, and you can't ever kind of get away from that. It was always going to happen. That's not to say that Jacques Newberg is doing a half-an-hour presentation on exactly how to beat the Springbok defence, but there's no doubt that working with him, they would understand a bit more how the Bok defence works. However, obviously our defence has also changed. Jerry Flannery's now been sort of had his opportunity to put his involvement and his sort of principles in place from a defensive point of view. So there is also that side of things where we are starting to change slightly from a defensive point of view. We are starting to see a slight change, because obviously your defense and your attack are hand in hand. It's not just about this is our defensive system, this is our attack system, and the coaches do it in complete isolation. That's, for example, where Zandile Sticker's such an important role, is his role in off-the-ball coach. And he spoke about the fact that he needs to have a work rate. And if you watch the Rassie Erasmus podcast, spoke about the fact that imagine if we had forwards with the same work rate as sevens players, just in terms of that, even when you don't have the ball, even when you're not involved, you've got to get yourself into the right position. You've got to get yourself in a position to impact the game. And, we're starting to develop this very comprehensive attack strategy, the Tony ball that we speak about. But that comes in with very, very big implications with how you defend. Because if you're losing the ball now and you've got a different attacking shape, how do you fall into your defensive shape? Even, for example, the way you defend, often the way you defend is also about when you create turnover ball, for example, what do you do with that turnover ball? So you've got to try and blend the two in a way that's organic and that works well together. And that's where I think we're starting to see us progressing, not just in the attack, but also in the defense. Yes, we've maybe conceded a couple of tries, maybe poorly in the last few weeks, and some of them, you concede a good try. That French try with Penno in the corner, you just see the ball speed of hands, for example, they just completely get around us. But I think that the Irish will understand our defense a bit better, and that was inevitable with Jacques Newberg leaving. That doesn't mean, for example, they've got the complete playbook and the 101 on how to beat the Boks. It's not quite that simple. So WLK says, if any coach is going to give Pollard the opportunity to attack, it's Ackerman. Pollard will have to show what he can do. He'll have a strong pack and a good young backline. It's a very good point, to be fair. He's even working with the right person. Ray says, I think it's clear on the direction the Boks is building towards the World Cup. I think the versatility of the players in the team is insane. Man says, is it a hot take to say Aki is really out of form? He's not great. Really a disappointing player as of lately for Ireland. I don't want to say anything because I will say something and then he'll drop an absolute masterclass this weekend. He's definitely not at World Cup 2023 levels, but I think at that stage he was probably the best player in the world during that tournament. I mean, he was incredible. He almost single-handedly beat the All Blacks at a stage in that quarterfinal. He was just playing such good rugby throughout that tournament. So I do think that he is maybe not at that kind of level, but he's an absolutely world-class player, and he loves a big game. Absolutely loves a big game. So this weekend, I think, will be a big opportunity for him, and he'll look at it as an opportunity to try and play himself back into form or show his worth. Catnap says, I hope we get to see Grant versus Jamison Gibson Park. Always thought they have the same style. Let's see if the student can outclass the teacher. I think a little bit different. I think Grant Williams is probably much more of a kind of a sniper, more sort of X-factor himself. I think Gibson Park has got an all-round, probably more solid game, kicking game, for example. I think awareness of space. I mean, we saw him starting to fullback last week. And with a cross kick for try assist. He's a disgustingly good rugby player. Wayne says, didn't predict Moody, but somehow he had to be an aerial battle creativity. Yeah, I was thinking of him at 13. But let's go look at my pick, shall we? And sort of see how we did. And we'll look at how you guys did and then see who's sitting on top of that league. So how's this? So the FS community has gone up to second on the team prediction league. No, I've gone to second. No, Tahir Rahim's overtaking me. Damn it. Oh, that's so annoying. Because of one position wrong. I would have been Kane and Moody. However, you guys are going up to third. The FS community is up to third, and there you also got 40 points. So yeah, it's a good effort. It's a good effort. We got 40 positions, 40 points for positions, 45 points for players. I was worried about this week. I must admit. But let's have a look at exactly what our scoring was for the team that you guys all predicted this morning when we did the show. You guys got Ruan Okira correct, which is a big shout because I think a lot of people talking about the RKS name and the playing the 50th test, the likes of that. So I'm going to put that on the screen and let's have a look at exactly what you guys got wrong and exactly what you guys got right with the predictions earlier. Let me know how many points you guys got if you in your personal ones. You know, how well did you guys do? Right, so this was your prediction. So you guys called Bone Fenter. It was Bone Fenter. We called the front row correct. We called Ibn Etzebeth correct. In fact, we called the entire pack correct. So it's pretty impressive. I mean, we got 27 points, 40 correct players, 13 correct positions. This is the FS community team prediction that we got. So the first one we got wrong was Ches and Colby in the 11. We went with Ethan Hooker. Got the centre pairing right. Jesse Creel, by the way, just edged out Kane Moody and just as well. Kane Moody obviously goes in there, but wrong position. So basically, effectively, only one player wrong with having Ethan Hooker in instead of Kanan. But lucky to get a bit of a bonus point there. So it's not a bad effort though. I don't think it's a bad effort at all. Next week will be interesting. Next week's the last week. I got to clutch up. I got to phone Rassie and say, you got to give me some tips here. You got to give me some insight because I've fallen behind by 1 point. And if I get it wrong next week, then I would have been usurped right at the end. So it should be pretty heartbreaking if that were to happen. But yeah, and if you haven't done it already, as I said, go right now, join my picks, go and get your score predictions locked in for this weekend. Go and see how you did for your team predictions. That is the link that we use. It's the same page where you do the predictions. That's where you will do our player ratings on Saturday afterwards. I'm anticipating a big player rating show this weekend. I think everyone's really up for this game. But so that's the my picks situation. And I'll have to respond next week. Ricky says, I'm a bit nervous about Moody's defensive position at 14. WLK says, what's up with Koch? Is he done? Yeah, well, more or less think so, to be honest. I think that we have sort of looked to phase him out at this stage. I think he needs to go back to the Sharks and start playing really good rugby if he wants to be involved. Welcome, Chris Butler, to the Forever Sports Members Club. Big shout out to you. Again, if you'd like to become a member, it is the pinned comment. If you'd like to feature in that Rassie's Coaches Corner section there, then do consider sending a super chat. As mentioned, we are looking at Project 2027, trying to get a team over there to give you guys on-the-ground coverage. It includes all the press conferences, training, extra bits, and all that likes. Jandre says, I think this is Bowen's acid test. He needs to contribute more off the ball. I'd personally have loved to see Ntuna on the bench. He just provides more than Bowen. Well, I think the big thing is at scrum time this weekend, Bowen's got to come up good. And if he does a job on Ty Furlong, then that'll go a long way towards cementing himself in this box squad. So Sean says Orange has played a lot recently since his return. It's just management. It's actually not just management. He is injured. And yeah, he got concussion. So he's actually returned to South Africa. I'd imagine he probably won't play, might be able to play for the Bulls next weekend. My gut says maybe not. And but we'll be back very, very soon. That's just what I need, was for him to come back to South Africa and then go play against the Lions next week. I'll be absolutely fuming if that does happen. But yeah, we are going to miss him though. And I'm surprised at the lack of Ethan Hooker, I must admit. Carl from Vegas says, Jesse and Etzebeth should never end this team. Instead, it should be Arendse on wing, Rudy on centre, and Archie for Etzebeth. Well, as I said, Arendse is not available. And yeah, I think I never think that a team with an Eben Etzebeth is a bad call. I can't. You know, I think also we talk about the aerial battle. He's a phenomenal addition to that in terms of the way he chases down box kicks, gets involved in that regard. I also think from a lineup point of view, he'll be important in the number 4 jumper. And leadership is, and that's what Rassie said. He said experience is the name of the game this week. It's about having that experience, about having players who've been there. And let's hope he puts in a big game. Carl, we will have Rassie Erasmus' press conference up a bit later. We do have a journalist in the room with him, probably as we speak, actually. So we will have that full press conference up later. So keep an eye out for it. And yeah, make sure you turn on your notifications if you've just subscribed, because then you make sure you get the notification when it does get published. Rugby Best says Moody is a hybrid player. And Brent says, I like the fact that he picked Money. The game will be a bit open and he'll be important. Butler says, what does everyone think of this backline? 9 Kobus, 10 Money, 11 Colby, 12 Willemse, 13 Moody, 14 Hooker, 15 Sasha, Andre Williams, and Arendse. I don't think you would really ever have a wing on the bench, to be honest. I think in that situation, you'd probably have Estes on the bench. If that one, I mean, look, I love Williams at 12. I just think it's such an exciting position for him. I think he is still the best. Him and Ramos are probably the best fullback in the world. But yeah, it's interesting to sort of see how that. I mean, for example, you've named a backline where everybody there has played in that position at some point in the season. Even Sasha hasn't started at 15, but he has played at 15. They last week a bit at 15. Willemse has started a game at 12 this year. So I think it's quite interesting in terms of the way that we have started to see players playing different positions, and we are definitely looking at the kind of concept of hybrid players and players that cover even more positions than previously. We spoke about Frans Steyn and David Willemse being, this key to the 6-2 split, and the fact that they can both play 10, 12, 15 type of thing. Now we're seeing a whole different kind of concept of hybrid players with covering flank and center, and Andre Estes in the case. Wing Kramoff in Grant Williams' case. Maidebo covering 10 and 15. Sasha covering 10, 12, 15. Willemse covering 12, 10, 15, 14. Damien Delindi covering 12, 13. Jesse Creel covering 13, 14. Kenny Moody 13, 14, etc., etc., etc. So basically, you kind of go through the entire squad, and there's basically no one here that could play. I mean, if you look at this, Malcolm Marx, I'm telling you, I think Thomas Toy has played a loose game this year. So Malcolm Marx, Bone Fenter, Eben are probably the only players in the past year, and Kobus probably, that have not played in a different position at some point in a game in that starting 15. And Ruan here. So because Thomas Toy's played lucid tighthead, for example. Sears played 6 and 8. Peter Toy last played a couple of games at 5, back at 7. And Jasper Visa plays at 8, always plays at 8. But Sasha's played 10, 15. Chisholm's played 11, 14, and 15. Damien Delendi's played 12 and 13. Jesse Creel's played 13 and had to move to a wing last year at a stage. Damien Willemse has played at 10, 12, and 15 in the last sort of year and a bit. So it's amazing how many of these players, even the forwards, are very dynamic in the way that they cover different positions. Clocker Smith can play across the entire back row, for example, can go to wing if he really needed to. So it's a good position for us to be in. It's a very comfortable position. Where you kind of just look around and you think, we're just so sorted, aren't we? We've just got every single possible box that could be ticked is being ticked, and I think that's really positive. Hidden Man says, looks like it'll be wet weather, so not sure how the open game will be. I don't think it's gonna be wet. It's gonna be cold. It's not predicted. It's not predicted to rain, or not scheduled to rain. It's said to be cold, Whether there'll be maybe a bit of snow, for example, whether it'll just be generally quite wet, we're not entirely sure. But it's not supposed to be bucketing, for example. I don't think they're going to be running out in the rain at this stage. The rain is scheduled for later in that evening. So in that regard, hopefully we get some decent weather, and hopefully we can play a bit of open rugby. It's going to be a phenomenal atmosphere. I'm very jealous of anybody who's going to be there. We will have a correspondent there, so we obviously will have the post-match press conferences as well. So yeah, make sure you do subscribe to the channel because you can get on top of all of that stuff. But I think we're in for just a phenomenal day. And hopefully it's also going to be our 100K. So I might have to have a bottle of champagne on ice and maybe even pop champagne during the stream. So that's going to be cool. And I'm looking forward to it. So I hope you guys are all going to make sure. I mean, we've got over 1,000 people watching. I better see you guys in the watch along. Don't you leave me now. Let's try and make this one of the biggest watch alongs we've had recently. Let's get 5,000 people watching. Let's get 10,000 people watching. I'll never forget during the World Cup final, we had over 20,000 people watching at a time. So yeah, I mean, let's try and get something like that this weekend. Chris Butler, one of our new members, says, yeah, I wish Ox was there, but we have a way of working around huge setbacks. When we lost Marks to the World Cup, I was absolutely devastated. Lawrence says, what do you call this bench? 4-4 split, 5-3-6-2. I think we've kind of gone with the 5.5, 6.5. With regards to how we refer to Andre Esterhuizen. And yeah, I think it is effectively a 6-2 split. We haven't really seen him play coming on at centre or replacing like a Damien Delendi recently. Lorenzo says, happy for Kane. He was brilliant under the high ball and that goose step. Yeah, look, it was good to see him playing at his best. And Spice says, these folks disrespecting Pollard forgot how he secured us 2 World Cups. Sure, he's not in form now, but don't throw dirt on his name. To be fair, I don't think anyone's saying he's not good enough or he's bad or anything. But for the way we're trying to play and the way that the problem is, the reality is he playing better than Sasha and Marnie? No. So no one's saying that we need to bin him. No one's saying that he's not good enough to be in the squad. But right now, is he good enough to play ahead of those two? And the answer right now is no. And that happens. And it's a big opportunity in his career to go and redefine himself. And he's a senior player now. So, somebody was saying there's rumors that he's signed for R360. It'd be interesting if he did. But it's going to be a big opportunity. It's a big challenge for him. And I think if somebody who loves the challenge, and I think will embrace that challenge, it'll be Andre Pollard. And he'll go back to the Bulls, and he'll be very aware of the fact that he needs to start showing something. He needs to find some good form, and he needs to start guiding that Bulls team to some big results. And making sure that he reminds everybody what he's all about. Black Cat says, our backline always performs better when Archia is on. If we're going to continue with the pretty rugby, we need more of the Archia type slick skills in our forwards. To be fair, I think you're now seeing the modern player in general has a very good skill set. I think that we're seeing the modern fly halves coming through, for example, like ball playing fly halves. We're seeing forwards with, even like your Zach Porthens, your Jan Hendrik Wessels, mobile, good skill sets. So I do think that we are getting a much more skillful types of players coming through. So I think we will naturally start to see probably more people in the mold of your Arceus Neymans. But to have somebody that size, that kind of offload game is pretty unique. I don't think there's anybody in the world that kind of has what he has to offer. And the fact that we managed to get that 50 times is very, very, very cool. And long may that continued. Because it's a key part of the way we play. And Tommy says, Kane is a beast. He is growing into it. We need to have long-term thinking here. Chris Butler says, I actually think that the way we are playing now has left Pollard behind. I just don't think he fits anymore. King of AI Music says, fuck is Marty Liebach there and not Pollard for the experience? Probably because Marty Liebach's been part of a record win against the All Blacks, beating France, beating Italy last week with 14 men, beating France with 14 men as well, beating Argentina twice too in the Rugby Championship. It's probably why he's there. Yeah, Marty Lee was playing some of the best rugby in his world. Tony Brown said he works with the forwards more than the backline. Skills take time to develop. Yeah, well, I think that's also an important part, is that how do we develop the current forward skills? And I think we are seeing some of the forwards get him. Like Ruben Arquer, for example, he's a very silky player. He's got a really good skill set. He gets around the park, good offload game, good handling game as well. We're seeing, for example, forwards get up and taking high balls and how much they're doing work on that. Soft passes, for example, good takes, being able to run the ball, being bulleted at by the likes of Martin Liebach and being able to take that, for example. Man says, I have a question for you, Stevie. Do you think there's place for Evan Lewis in the Springbok squad ever? Well, with players like Visa Smith and the others like Lohan, Corman, or Christus? I think there is space for him, but I think he needs to really go back and he needs to work on the core principles of being a loose forward. I think that we know he's a phenomenal player in the loose, great turn of pace, but I think he needs to really, really go back and work on being a dominant tackler, being physical in the trenches, getting over that advantage line, being able to pick up and go. And I think that's obviously a part of his game that he needs to really develop. He's so young, and he's got the physical attributes. And I think, Rassie's even said, he is part of the plans, for example. But I think he just needs to try and find where he fits in, how he fits in. Maybe it's even a switch to a number 6 jersey, for example. He's 25 years old, he's 26 next year, so he's going to start coming hopefully into his golden years. It is difficult, I think, and I think we've got a very good, you've got a world-class player in the likes of Visa. You've got Cameron Hanekom coming through, for example. I think there is space for Evan Lewis, but I think he's quite aware of what he needs to work on. If he gets that right, then yeah, I think there's definitely space for him in the side. Last question, Christian says, great team, good luck, Boca and Greens from Mauritius, box 28, Ireland 20. We must avoid to be red carded. Yeah, if we get a red card, I'll just cry on stream. People, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for getting involved on the MyPicks.app. We passed that 500 users. We're up to close on 99,400 subscribers. We're at 99,350. So we'll knock those last sort of 650 off on Saturday evening. We will have the Rassie Erasmus press conference up a bit later, so make sure you keep an eye on that, as well as the Andy Farrell one. So please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Turn your notifications on so you get notified whenever we do post a video and all the latest news. And thank you very much for joining me. It's been a good show.